This is the first time in the channel's history that I say that the market crashed. Porsche Taycan prices are down by almost 40% compared to their market top of May 2022. And in my book this warrants the usage of the word crash. No clickbait over here. Now EVs in general are having a hard time when it comes to the value development, and the Taycan is no exception. In the last two market updates we already established that depreciation rates are high and that there are a few reasons to be optimistic about the price trend. Rates were even higher than in the Panamera market. So if you're planning to buy a Taycan, you better do it with your eyes wide open and try to exploit the current situation. In this video you'll get fully updated on the latest developments. We'll figure out which Taycan models are depreciating the most, if there are any signs of relief in the market, and how all of this compares to the Panamera market. Starting with the base and S models, we can see a surprising price development. Did base models flatten? And are they priced similar to S models? No, of course not. Under the previous video someone commented the sentence, "There are lies, damned lies and statistics," implying that it's easy to twist and turn the numbers until they reveal what you want them to show. This is true, and the price trends that you just saw in the Taycan market are an excellent example of this. You see, what happened over here is that many young base models with a relatively low mileage were put up for sale. And these cars of course skew the numbers. Now when it comes to the numbers on this channel, I always try to present them with as little bias as possible. On a personal level, I couldn't care less if prices are going up or down, because it doesn't affect me. Now the following graph gives a much better description of what's happening in the base and S market. Over here we have the base and S prices broken down by model year, and the data basically speaks for itself, right? Values are plummeting. Compared to the market top, base models are down by an average of 28% or $29.7 thousand, and S's by 35% or $46.7 thousand. I mean, look at the slope of those lines. It's crazy, right? Rates hardly flattened. Compared to last November, 2022 and 2021 base models are down by 27% and S's by 30%. And these are serious losses. Now if we switch to the GTS and Turbo market, we can see that the situation isn't much better over there. Turbo S's are for example down by an average of 33% compared to May 2022, and that equals a loss of $62,000. Again, the situation isn't really improving. Compared to last year, the Turbo is down by 28.7% and the Turbo S by 27%. Now the GTS is an interesting car. Values aren't decreasing as rapid as in the Turbo market. Last year, prices decreased by only 17%. However, there's a very good explanation for this. GTSs get driven much less than the turbos, and given the high depreciation per 1000 miles for the Taycans, this explains the difference in the price decrease. Let's pull all of the numbers together now. Over here we have the price changes compared to last year for all the models that we talked about. Excluding the GTSs, Taycans lost on average 28% during last year. In the previous market update we saw that base models did slightly better than the more expensive models, but this difference disappeared now. Now the big question is of course, how does all of this compare to other models? We'll soon talk about the comparison to other EVs. I would first like to make a comparison to the Panamera. Taycans and Panameras aren't in the same category, but they're both four-door Porsches that aren't SUVs. Over here we have a comparison between the Taycans and the Panameras by model year and by model type. Not all the model years and model types are included because I filtered out the cases with few examples. Now looking at this chart, we can conclude that Panameras lost significantly less. The displayed Taycan models and model types lost on average 28% and the Panamera 16%. That's still a high number, but 12 percentage points less than the Taycans. A Taycan S from 2021 lost for example 31% during last year, while this is 17% for a 2021 Panamera S. Now what's interesting about this is that in the beginning of last year, the advantage of the Panamera was much smaller. The depreciation rate in the Panamera decreased slightly, while it continued at the same pace in the Taycan market. But what happens if we aggregate even further? That is, compare the Taycan price changes to the rest of the market. Over here we have the US year-over-year price changes for almost all cars that feature on my channel. On the horizontal axis we have the price change compared to last year in percentages, and on the vertical axis the number of cars to which this change applies. Now the average decrease during last year was 8.4%, and most cars lost between 13 and 4%. And as we know by now, the Taycan lost a multiple of the normal rates. With an average of minus 28%, the Taycan is the single most fast depreciating car on the channel. There's however one thing we need to keep in mind. I mainly cover sports and supercars, so comparing the Taycan to those values isn't completely fair. In the ideal situation, you should compare them to cars like the e-tron GT and perhaps even Teslas. Unfortunately, I don't have any data for those cars, but I recommend to have a look at a recent video of VinWiki. They, for example, also share some data on the EQS, I-Pace and Teslas. And this confirms that the EV market as a whole is struggling and that depreciation rates are massive. It's a big contrast to the sports and supercar market. Just have a look at last week's video. Now these crashing prices in the Taycan market have been going on for some time. But as we know, sooner or later, depreciation curves will flatten. Can we already see this in the Taycan market? Not really, I'm afraid. Some model years show smaller losses in the last 3 months than before, but the differences are so small and inconsistent that they could be the result of chance. We can only identify one sort of positive thing about the Taycan market. The situation isn't getting any worse. Prices are dropping linearly and the decrease rate is not increasing. And this is also what we're seeing in the inventory levels, and you can use this to your advantage. Over here we have on the left the percentage of unsold cars after 3 months, and on the right the price decrease for those unsold cars. Now this reveals that the unsold inventory increased tremendously during 2022 and 2023. And this of course puts downward pressure on the prices. Since May of this year though, values stabilized, something which typically highlights that the scarcity level in the market is stable. But as we know, it's not so high. Now looking at the graph on the right, so the price change for the unsold inventory, we can see for example that discount rates stabilized this year. In January, cars that were not sold were discounted by 9 to 11%, and currently it sits at minus 8%, a relatively stable pattern compared to the drops in 2022. This of course also means that you can take advantage of the current situation. You should take note of the time that the car is listed for sale. If this is creeping towards 3 months or more, you have a good position at the negotiation table. A rate of 8% is not insignificant if you take the yearly loss rate of 28% into account. All of this also applies to the turbo market. We can see a stabilizing trend in the unsold inventory level and the discount rates. 30% of the turbo assets that were for sale in November were also for sale in August, and they were discounted by an average rate of 6%. The largest discount rate is visible in the normal turbo market. They sit at minus 9%. And with that it's time to wrap up and conclude. The Porsche Taycan market crashed. Values are down by an average of 28% compared to last year, while some models are down by almost 40% compared to their market top. And also that isn't too long ago. Personally, I would then also steer away from a brand new Taycan or any other EV for that matter. If you want one anyway, I would look for a used example. It doesn't need to be the highest mileage oldest car you can find. Because they are dropping so quickly, a 1-year-old car can already save you a ton of money. Moreover, as unsold inventory is discounted heavily, it's likely that you'll get a fair amount off from the asking price. Now all of this is of course mainly relevant if you're a private buyer. Commercial buyers might care less about the depreciation rate. And with that we arrived at the end of this video. Now if you enjoy this data-driven way of analyzing car prices, but would like to see the analysis for a different car, head over to my channel. Over there you'll find detailed market analysis for a large variety of cars. They're even organized by playlist, so that you can browse through them easily. Can't find the car you're looking for? Let me know the name of the car down below in the comment section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I'll make a video about it. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next week for a new video.